Colton, dude. Appreciate you coming on here. So let's get your backstory, dude. We were just talking about it before we jumped on and started recording, but you're from Vegas. So tell us a little bit how you cut your teeth in real estate sales, and then we'll speed up to where you're at today.
Yeah. So I became a dad when I was 16.
Okay.
So being from Vegas, you either work the poker tables, you're a cocktail server, you work at the nightclubs, or you're a stripper. And and it's like, or you become a real estate agent. And
Okay.
all of those paths lead to becoming a real estate agent out there in Vegas.
Yeah.
So got started in real estate. My dad's best friend, Frank Napoli Sr., he was a really well-known agent there. I used to watch him and how he conducted business and knew he was really successful. So ended up reaching out to him, asking if I could get into real estate, join his team, and ended up doing that and was really happy with the decision. Started in 2008,
Okay.
so everything was distressed. Right, Vegas carries about 8,000 homes on the market as a balanced market.
Really? Okay.
And at the time, they had 72,000 homes on the market. So
Pretty. It's a big tick up.
yeah,
you know?
yeah. So it was a scary time to get in, but it's the only time I knew. So started doing short sales and distress sales, and that's where we really started gaining a ton of traction through the down market.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, Vegas, like we talked about, one of those markets that you talk about that gets hit really hard because
Yeah.
it's a vacation spot. There's not a ton of people. It's like our secondary market here. It's like a Palm Springs, Palm
Yeah.
Desert. Like, you don't have a very core, solid amount of people that are living like in Orange County where they're going to drive 15 minutes to work and then drive
Yep.
15 minutes home.
Yeah.
So, cutting teeth, now it's a good market, but going through cutting your teeth on short sales and everything like that, how were you able to sustain through 4 or 5 years of just grit?
It was hard. I was digging ditches. So in Vegas, we were talking before, it's either 120 degrees or it's 20 degrees.
Yeah.
And I was digging ditches. So when I got into it, it was a lot better than that. So I was like, okay, I can put in a suit, I can make phone calls, I can hold open houses, I can do door knocking. And honestly, that was a very slow way to gain traction. And there was multiple times I was like, okay, this isn't going to work. But I was 16 years old when
Yeah.
I had my daughter. So by the time I got into real estate, I was 18, she was 2. I didn't really have any other options. And I knew whatever options I chose, if I made that decision for the short term, I knew it would dramatically affect the long term. So fortunately, I lived with my parents for like the first year that I was in real estate, and then ended up moving out and just didn't have a plan B, so I had to make it work. So when short sales presented themselves as an opportunity for us, the reason I started doing them actually was the first deal I ever did. I sold a $37,000 condo.
Okay.
And
That's a huge price point.
yeah, our initial deposits here. So I had a $37,000 condo, had to pay a short sale negotiator $1,000. By the time the transaction was done and by the time it closed, I owed money. So, and I waited 6 months for that transaction. So
Yeah,
I was
nice.
like, okay, so this doesn't work.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to, I was like, why don't I negotiate the short sales?
Yeah.
So I started doing that for the team. That was something that I really enjoyed. I'm not an extroverted person. I'm very introverted. So dealing with the banks and dealing with the office and the systems and the processes and the structure and how we negotiated the debt out, like that was something that I had a ton of passion in. So we started doing it and grew it from doing maybe, like at the time, we were doing maybe 3-4 short sales a year to within the first year, we did like 250 of them. And then we continued to scale that through like 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and that business started drying up. And I knew that business was going to dry up, and I knew we were going to have to kind of shift gears. And I decided if I'm going to shift gears, I'm going to do it in California, where you guys have a lot more expensive homes.
Yeah. A little bit more than 37,000.
Yeah, that's our initial deposits here.
Yeah. Okay, so doing all that now, and when we were talking before we jumped on, a lot of your business, so now you're in Orange County. You've been here 6-7 years, you said?
Yeah, it's been 7 years now.
Okay. All right, so what's different about this market comparatively to, outside of the parameters we talked about?
Way more competitive. We thought we were going to leave Las Vegas and we were going to sell 400 houses a year here in Orange County. and we didn't do the math of how many agents are in comparison
Oh,
to
yeah.
the population.
Yeah.
And I think there is a real estate agent for every 6 or 7 people here in Orange County.
Yeah.
So just way more competitive. And then the people that you're competing against as you start getting into that upper echelon, like it's a completely different caliber of agent than it was back there in Nevada.
Yeah.
So people selling a couple hundred homes a year there, you have to in order just to make a living.
Yes.
Here, it was just a very competitive market. Everybody's out to sell your clients.
Yep.
So it was a lot more competitive here, and it was a much more difficult path to recreating what we had done in Vegas.
Okay, and so how did you get to those clients here? Since you weren't born and raised here, those types. I've talked to agents that were born and raised, moved
Yeah.
out, and then came back, but you weren't born and raised. So how were you able to get those clients?
Yeah, so for me, we did online leads. I'm a process and a system person, so I don't like doing open houses because it required me to go talk to clients a ton.
Yeah.
So online leads and being able to create that to where it was inbound and we had a good system for it, like that was just an area that we gained traction really, really quickly. So we started with Zillow. We started with a tiny little spend of, I think I spent like $300 a month. And got my first closing, reinvested that into a larger spend, continued to scale that, and then we started incorporating in like Realtor.com and PPC, and because our entire system was built around acquiring leads, handling the automations for the conversion, creating the processes, the objection handling for our agents, and I knew I wanted to scale myself out of production really, really quickly. So
Okay.
just kind of created a duplicatable process and just scaled it through online leads.
Did you scale yourself out of production in Vegas?
No, I did not.
No.
Yeah, I was very much in production. Hated every minute of it.
Okay, all right. So then you knew, one, I want to move to Orange County. Two, we got to get some type of leads in the door. And 3, I want to get out of production.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about a little bit of the leads, PPC. How are you tracking those then and then now comparatively? So, where were you getting them there? Was it Facebook? Where was your normal spend?
Yeah, we did Facebook leads really quickly because I track everything. So it's like the amount of leads we received to our conversation rate for Facebook was pretty much non-existent.
Yep.
And then so we started going deeper with PPC, and those are people more in like the discovery phase. So the average life cycle of a PPC lead in our office is 634 days. So we get about a 1% conversion in year 1, and then we'll pick up about a 1.5% more conversion in year 2, and then you'll pick up about another percent in year 3.
Okay.
So it's a much more long-term nurture as opposed to the portal leads.
Yeah.
Obviously, portal leads are on Zillow, on Realtor.com, saying, I want to see this property tomorrow. So it's a much more bottom of the funnel, better quality lead. So we just started finding our footing, trying to figure out where the sweet spot of top of funnel was going to be and where the sweet spot for spend for bottom of the funnel leads were going to be.
Yeah.
So we really quickly, when we first started running it, like, okay, this is going to take too long to get an ROI. So we really started allocating the majority of our budget towards the bottom of the funnel leads and then started scaling up the top of the funnel stuff.
Gotcha. Okay. And dude, because I've done PPC, I've done quite a bit of stuff. What was the conversations and also the conversion that you guys were getting, even though it takes like you said over basically 2 years to get to that person that's actually going to transact? For one, you got a lot of time span that you're going to hold out until that person transacts. And 2, what are you saying or what are you talking to that client outside of just opening a door for them? Because typically, you get a lot of clients that are like that too.
Yeah. The conversation was very different, and we learned that the hard way. Like when we started meeting clients with PPC with the same cadence and relentlessness that we did with the Realtor.com and the Zillow leads, we got blocked. They wouldn't respond to us. So we just learned that we had to take a much more soft approach, and it's more of a discovery call. So the scripting started changing dramatically. The scripting turned into, instead of when you look into that, it's like because anytime you'd get a hold of them, they're like, I'm just kind of looking.
Yep.
Totally understand. Help me better understand what has you looking.
Yeah.
And it's like just slowly starting to peel that onion back a little bit, identifying what their motivations are. Ideally, if I could wave a wand, when do you see yourself moving into your home? And it's just a much more passive, soft, no hard close nurtures. So if you can educate them, nurture them, and go through that process, and you just have the realistic expectations of how long it's going to take to convert, you won't get disappointed, and you'll keep it going with them.
Yeah.
But what we found, like in order for PPC to work, we had to layer in retarget marketing so that we constantly tracked them and we could identify who's coming back to our system.
Yep.
It's a lot more intricate. The cost per lead is substantially less. Cost per closing, which is the only thing I care about, really by the time you count our ISA expense, the leads, the systems, it's really comparable to Zillow for us, which has started to become a little bit problematic because at that point it's like, why are we running it?
Yeah.
And so in our market, we found that in any of the high price markets, PPC performs a lot worse than in some of like the inner cities and.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is like I've done PPC, and maybe I can tell you I'm not a systems guy in the sense of like looking at the PPC. I've done other systems in the business to be where we're at on where we're getting leads, but for you, like I've done Zillow, and I've transacted with clients from Zillow, but it's a lot of money spent to really very few people transacting. But if we went into the Midwest, we went into Louisiana, I talked to a lot of agents that do a lot of stuff there, and it's like day and night comparatively. And I think too, it's the conversations that people are willing to have on the phone in those markets comparatively to ours. Like ours, everybody's so busy here, and it's
the
like
difference in people.
Yeah, like it's like either I'm getting hung up on, or they're not even picking up my call, or if they do, they're very gruff. So yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I think because we get the same thing, and where we've had a ton of success is oftentimes, and we used to too, and it's you would take the rejections and the angry and the screw yous and the don't bother me. We would take that as rejection, and it's like, well, they really don't know us, they don't like us, they don't trust us, and they're not ready to transact yet. So it's like, what business do they really have speaking to us? And it's like when we started adjusting our cadence and we started adjusting like our scripting and how aggressively we were coming at them, we started seeing a huge difference. But like the real the catalyst for us actually starting to see good conversion from it came from we started doing educational videos, especially from like COVID to now. The market's been changing so much to where people, I feel like, have been sitting at the edges of their seat for the last 4 years trying to figure out what's happening. Is the market going to tank? It's not going to tank. Oh my God, it's skyrocketing. And now, oh my God, it's going to tank. And then, well, okay, maybe it's not.
Yep.
It's like, so the educational videos and just being able to keep people in the loop and keep them educated to help them kind of pull some of the emotion out of this whole process that we've all been going through. That's been really important for us to create better conversations, be more engaging. And again, it's just more of an educational process for us. And that has helped conversion substantially.
Yeah, for sure. And in like continually adding value to those people by, an email to, a text to a phone call, making sure that it's the long-term game. And granted, I know everybody talks about that, especially in real estate. It's long-term, I think a lot of people too get into it and they go, okay, well, I'm going to spend $3,000 this month and I'm going to get 16, next month. And that's not the case. It's a long-term game. You got to really know that those people are going to be in it for the long haul. You just got to be a systems guy like you talk about and put those systems into place. Doesn't matter if you're doing cold calling or you're doing PPC or you're doing, TV or radio, whatever that is to get your, to be able to get those clients on board. You just got to be consistent about it, and you got to know how they came across and how you're going to cross that threshold with them, right? So that's the thing. So, okay, so business now for you after 7 years being here, what does that look like? How has that progressed? How big's your team and everything?
So we've been growing a lot. So like 2019, I think we did 24 million. 2020 we did 50. 2021 we did 75. 2022 we did 156. And then this year I think we should be able to double again. We've been adding agent count because with the volume of leads that we're dealing with, we definitely need it. So we're not trying to be this huge mega team that doesn't have producing agents, but we are a team that we have so many opportunities to where our answer rate drops to like 30, 40%. It's like, okay, the only way we can fix this is by adding bodies to answer these. I've never enjoyed real estate. I really haven't. I got into real estate because it's what I had to do at the time. And now my passion in the business is creating the leads, the leverage, the leadership to be able to get other agents into production, provide them the opportunities and the training. And it's like there's so many things that can go wrong when we get into real estate. And it's usually boils down to one of four things. It's either mindset, it's processes, it's mindset, processes, skill set, or activity. It's like it's one of those four things, and it takes a lot of time and repetition for us to gain the skill sets to be successful.
Yeah.
And it's like, how long of a runway do you have before you can have it start paying you the way that you need it to pay you so you can sustain and not quit?
Yep.
So what I enjoy is being able to take new agents, train them how to not only catch the ball, but progress it down the field and very quickly. And we do that through just a ton of coaching, training, scripting, objection handling, reinforcement training. That's where I have a ton of fun with this.
Yeah. I mean, I think the leadership role, especially to agents, is huge and monumental because most people get into real estate and think, for one, they're going to transact with everybody that they know, which isn't true, and then two, they think that it's going to be a breeze, right? Especially the past couple of years, Yeah. And I feel like they go through, I haven't had my license for that long, but I feel like there's these cycles where it ticks up and they're like, yeah, I'm going to get 10, 20, $30,000 commission checks every single month. And that's not the case. Like you got to repeat business, which it's ultimately a business game.
Yeah.
So you got to build it off that. So I think, on the aspect of, doesn't matter if you like homes or not. I've heard a lot of agents like, I don't do it for the homes, I do it for the systems, or I do it for, leadership and building, a brand and also building a business. And I think, either avenue, you can be successful. It just depends on what that avenue is. And you take a stronghold on that.
Yeah.
What have you seen with new agents what do you guys go for? You guys go for the brand new agents, or do you go for agents that have 2-3 years experience?
We have a really good mix, and we didn't before. Like, honestly, we weren't attracting larger agents before, but now the systems, we pay for a ton of coaching. And back in the day, I used to have people like, why are you spending so much money on coaching? Mm-hmm. And it's just such a value add to our agents, the accountability that we have. Like, we really had to figure out how to become, because we were a small team. We were a team of 4. And that was only a year and a half ago. So it's like from then to now we have over 30 agents, and now we have a director of operations, we have a director of sales, we have an in-house ISA who sets appointments for the agents, we have a lead recruiter. So we've been trying to figure out how to be a real business. And it honestly, like when we first start, it's from failure, screwing it up, being like, okay, this doesn't work, this is what we need to do now. And what we found is, regardless of if it's a new agent, it's an experienced agent, it's our onboarding process that was screwing it up. And it's like the net that we cast to the talent that we were trying to attract, to the hiring process, the interview process, the selection process, like setting expectations. It used to be when we first started of, this is why you should join us, and this is where we're great, and we're going to give you a ton of leads, and we're going to give you a ton of opportunities. And it's like that wasn't attracting the right type of agents. Yeah. And so what we shifted is, you probably don't have the grit, you probably don't have the grind, you probably don't have the interest or the desire to string to gain, not just days, weeks, months, and years worth of consistency to get the results that you want. And it's like, if you see that trajectory as too much or something that's not going to interest you and something that would want you to burn out of the business, don't join us. Yeah. It's like your first year is going to be hell. Like your first year in real estate is not going to be fun. You're going to suck. You don't know what you don't know. It takes you going through the repetitions and creating the skill set that's going to make you a more efficient agent. And it's like when we shifted that script, the people who were attracted and the people who joined had realistic expectations set. And it's like, I don't know why I use this analogy. I'm not an airplane person, nor a pilot. But it's like a 747 takes 10,000 feet of runway to take off. And I can guarantee you a 747 feet, 5,000 feet down the runway, he doesn't get discouraged when he's not in the air yet. And it's because he has realistic expectations of how long it takes and the thrust and everything that it takes to get that thing off the ground. And we just had to create that in onboarding, in setting better expectations and letting people know truly what you got to do and how long you have to string together that consistency to be able to expect this to be a sustainable career. Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I think, going back to what you just said, expectations, setting that bar strong and high when they first come on. It's what I've heard from a lot of agents where it's, you got to set it high and not go. It's just like dating. You don't want to go in the scenario where you're like, hey, can I call you? Can I call you? Can I call you? You want to be able to, talk to that person and say, hey, I'll meet you at this time, this day, or, we can meet up for dinner or whatever it is. And the same thing for onboarding agents or interviewing agents. Okay, well, hey, these are my days, and we'll provide you at that point what
our expectation sheet is, what we provide for our agents, and also these are the minimums that you need to meet before you go into actually being on the team.
Yeah.
So because there's a lot of people that it's like, hey, we do this, we do this, we do this. And then people are like, well, same thing as like buyers and sellers. It's like, hey,
you feature dump.
Yeah. You continue to follow up with them like 5 times in one day, and then they block you, and you're like, what happened? You're like, you don't want anybody like that.
The problem is, and I can only say this because I'm speaking from experience, is we try to sell by feature dumping. And it's like, there's the old story of when Apple released their first iPod, and they did 3 gigs of storage. And that's the reality. But for the average consumer, nobody knew what that meant. They're like, okay, here's this electronic music device. Who knows what it does? 3 gigs of storage. None of us knew what that meant. And they had to get a new marketing person in, and they had to get a head of marketing that just changed like one little thing. And it was, instead of 3 gigs of storage, it was 1,000 songs in your pocket. And it was like the benefit. And the benefit is what clicked with everybody.
Yeah.
And it's like we constantly are trying to sell features, and we expect people to understand how those features benefit them. But like a shift that we had to make, and we see this a ton now with the creative financing, 3-2-1 buy downs, 2-1 buy downs, like all the different ways that we're helping with affordability. Mm-hmm. Clients don't know what that shit means. Like they have absolutely no idea. What they do understand is the average savings is about $1,800 a month by utilizing this creative financing, to where the seller will actually participate in your first 3 years of mortgage payments.
Yes.
And it's like, would that be something you'd be interested in finding out more about? And they're like, yes. Cool.
Yeah.
And then you let the lender explain it, because that's their wheelhouse.
Yes.
And it's like, we just learned, start selling benefits, stop selling features.
Yeah, for sure. Because people, I mean, you had a great example about, Apple is, I remember 1,000 songs. Like, I think it was like, first one was like 500 or it was 1,000, and then it went up to like, 2,500 or something.
Yeah.
But it's like, dude, I have 6,000 on my computer. I need something bigger, continue to like make these. So, but like you said, it's, you got to sell benefits, especially to clients and stuff like that, to, go over the long-term play, back with clients and agents, like, hey, this is going to be a long-term play on both parts, your part and my part. So when you sit down with them, clients and agents, dude, long-term and expectations are huge, because you can sit down with them, not give them expectations, and say this is going to be a long, drawn-out process, and then you're going to fire them in a year, 2 years, because they don't know the expectations, and vice versa.
Yep.
So where do you see, your team going from, if I said, hey, what are we looking at 2023 and 2024? I know you said double, but what else?
We, and I think we can do it. I know we've kind of created a formula that we know works. We're really fortunate to have lead partnerships that scale with us. So this year, I'm aiming for $300 million. If we land somewhere between, like for the last 4 years, we've grown by 100%, and I just want to see how long we can continue to do that. And it's a fun process. It's definitely difficult. It's not been without turbulence. I don't know why I use air.
No, you're good, dude. I think everybody uses them. I think I don't know about the runway example, but the turbulent thing,
the
dude, everybody's using those.
It's definitely gone without, it's not gone without headache, but we've finally we have the good avatar for the agents that we need. We have the systems, we have the processes, we have the training. And now it's like, in our world, people move the money. And it's like, if you get the right agent and the right agent count, and we have the opportunities and we have the leverage, so you got the leads, the leverage, and the leadership, the business starts to scale in pretty quickly. We found as a team, being in that messy middle of like 4 to 8 was hell. It was miserable. It was really difficult to run a profit. And that's, like, teams are another conversation. I don't even know if you want to go into that. But it's like, there's a lot of teams, but a lot of people are running a team, and they don't even understand that their team's costing them money. And it's like, because they don't know how to run a P&L, and they don't pay themselves the same way as an agent, and they're not paying themselves a salary. And it's like, a lot of people, when you actually have them structure the P&L the way that they should. I had a friend that found out after we had him pay himself the same way as an agent, that all of his profit was his personal production. And that when he paid himself the same way that he paid an agent through cost of goods sold, his team was costing him $200,000 a year to run. And he was like, oh, so this isn't working. So he pivoted, and he was able to scale his way out of it. But it's like that little messy middle, most of those teams that have tricked themselves into thinking that they're profitable, when they pay themselves the same way that they do an agent, which is a real way to run the P&L, teams aren't that profitable until you scale past a certain point. And then at that point, it becomes lucrative.
So what do you say go from there, since we went on that topic, or you went there, is what was that for you, 10? 12?
On 15 plus.
Okay.
Yeah, because then at that point, like I've had friends where 50% of their production walked out with 2 people. And it's like, that's not a position that I want to leave myself in. Like I don't want to be, so we've got it now to where we don't have one agent that's responsible for more than 7% of our production.
Okay.
So it's like, if you lose one person, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
But when you're a team of 4, 5, 6, that means you probably got 2 or 3 doing the majority of the production. One person walks out, there goes your profit. And
Yeah,
now
that's
you're
true.
running at a loss again.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So 15. And then how long did it take you to get there to that, like, okay, that epiphany of like 15? Did you know that before you came to California? No.
No, we have not known a single thing that we found out. It's just been through trial and error. It's been, watching the P&L being like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And trying to scale through it. And I enjoy it. It's not for everybody. I truthfully don't think the majority of agents should run teams, because I think we get to a point as a solo agent where you're like, I'm burning out. I'm working nights, I'm working weekends, I'm away from my kids, I'm away from this. I'm making good money, but it's time for me to start scaling my way out of production. And most people don't have the interest in truly leading people. They don't have the interest in training people and holding them accountable and ensuring that they survive.
Yeah.
Like the majority of teams start a team hoping that the team's going to create their success.
Yeah.
And it's like the turning point for us, and again, it wasn't with intention, we just figured this out. It's like, we need to make my success 100% dependent upon the success of the team. Because when we do that, I invest in the infrastructure and the training and the structure and the opportunities and the leadership. And it just becomes a value for them. And most teams the team lead does maybe 90% of the production, 80%.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not an environment that's conducive for the team leads,
No.
for their success.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of a shift in, I work for them, they don't work for us.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. Being a leader, I'm working for you guys. I'm making sure that, the systems are in place so you guys can get the leads. But at the same time, I'm making sure that outside of holding you accountable, we know the X's and O's to execute, you know?
Here's the plays to run. If you run these plays, you'll find success. And it's like finding the people. Like, it's funny, athletes, tell me what to do and I'll do it. Like, tell me what plays to run, I'll run those plays.
Yeah.
So we've just figured out the right avatars for them.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
No, huge, 100%. Okay, so growth, everything else, as we transition. So what's helping you guys right now as an online resource and or app that you guys are using for the most that helps the team? People take what like our processes, the systems that I think are necessary for anybody, and whether you're a solo, you're a small team, you're a micro team, a mega team, it doesn't matter. The importance of tracking and keeping a scorecard. So we utilize Sisu paired with our CRM. And for us, it's like utilizing automations, because online lead follow-up can be a nightmare. And it's like most agents don't have the interest or the discipline or the consistency to, when they call 2, 3, 4 times, somebody hasn't gotten back to them, that lead falls off. Well, what we've found through tracking and through numbers is that over 47% of our lead conversions happen in the second 6 months. So it's like, if we give up after that third attempt, fourth attempt, fifth attempt, all of your ROI comes from those later conversions. For sure.
So we utilize a ton of automations within our CRM to allow automated text messages to do the majority of the heavy lifting for us.
Okay.
And then when we get the responses, then of course the agents take over, do their conversion, and do what they got to do there.
Okay.
But just we use Sierra Interactive as a CRM. It allows us to send those automated text messages. We use Hatch messaging for our plans that we utilize. And then we just track the hell out of everything. So utilizing Sisu.
Okay, cool. What about a book? Do you read much? Is there a book that's kind of sets you apart in business and or real estate?
Ninja Selling's a good one. The 12-week year is what I live and breathe by. It's annualized goal setting is really ineffective. We already know that. What day are we on? We're on January 11th. We know that probably at least 50% of people have already fallen off their goals.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's so we kind of break it down by the 12-week. We live by that 12-week year, how we keep scorecards with the daily activities that we do, and we live and breathe off of that, and it helps us be much more effective.
Yeah, for sure. No, those are good. Where can people find out more about you and your team?
Just shoot us you can Google us, look me up on Instagram, Colton Whitney, and we try to put as much educational content out as possible. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Nice, man. I appreciate it, dude. I'm glad we went deep on, where you started, how you cut your teeth, going, short sales, all the way into what you're doing now with PPC. It's definitely helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All
Appreciate
right.
you having me on.
Thanks, dude.
Thanks.